Hi guys, welcome back to Vedic Astrology. Today we are going to be doing the monthly reading for the month of November, where we are going to discuss the transits of all the 9 planets from a Vedic astrology perspective to understand what is the kind of impact that we can anticipate for this month from a transit perspective. Now, guys, as you can see on your screen here, these are some of the important dates which are going to come into picture. First and foremost, Sun is currently in the sign of Libra and is going to be stationed there until November 16, and it then moves into the sign of Scorpio. Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio already, and it will become retrograde from November 9, and it will come back into the sign of Libra from November 23. Venus is in the sign of Libra from November 2nd onwards, and it is going to be in the sign of Scorpio. So, multiple planets coming into the sign of Scorpio on November 26th. You have Mars, which is going to be placed in the sign of Scorpio throughout the course of the month. However, he will become combust from November 7th till March 27th. You have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. He's been there since October 18th, and it is going to get into the mode of retrogression from November 11th onwards. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces itself in Purv Bhadrapada Nakshatra, and most importantly, will become direct from November 27th. Rahu is in Purv Bhadrapada Nakshatra, again, that is of Jupiter, and is going to remain there throughout the course of the month in the sign of Aquarius itself, while Ketu is in Purv Falguni Nakshatra of Venus and is going to be stationed there throughout the course of the month in the sign of Leo itself. So, without further ado, guys, now let's jump into understanding what these transit dates are going to do and how you are going to see the impact through the course of the month of November. So, Sagittarius, as you guys can see on your screen here, you have Rahu in your third, whilst Ketu is in your ninth house. Saturn still sitting retrograded in your fourth house in the sign of Pisces. Whereas your Lagna Lord, or if you are watching from a Sagittarius moon sign perspective, Jupiter is currently in its state of exaltation. Mercury conjunct with Mars in Scorpio, he will slip back into Libra, and Venus conjunct with Sun in the 11th house. Now, this month is crucial because 3 planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, at different point in times, and mainly in the second and the third week, will be retrograded together, and that is where things are going to be pretty interesting, which you have to take a note of. First and foremost, you have to understand that your Lagna Lord has come into its sign of exaltation in the 8th house. Now, we have done a detailed video last week where we talked about the transit of Jupiter into the sign of Cancer. If you've not had a chance, I'll highly recommend you to go ahead and check out that video as well. But when Lagna Lord is coming into the 8th house, it will make matters a little bit interesting with respect to your mindset. First and foremost, on the positive side, you will be inclined towards research, discovering new things, planning, learning, unlearning. People who are associated in the field of back-end development, forensics, spy stuff, research of some kinds, microscopic biotechnology kind of related areas. This is a good period for you, Sagittarius, on all those areas. This is also going to be a superior period if you want to forge better relationships with your in-laws if you are married. Joint partnerships with your spouse, business partners is also going to be lucrative. It is going to be a good period for your in-laws as such, as well as your interest in the space of occult is also going to grow, and your knowledge, in fact tantric knowledge, learning stuff in that area as well, is also going to be turning out fruitful. But at the same time, you have to be cautious that Sagittarius, when Lagna Lord is coming into the 8th, somewhere or the other, even though he is exalted, but because he is going to be in lesser in degrees, there could be a risk of you getting involved into some sudden level of transformation, some disruption of sorts that could come into picture. You will have to take due care of your health fitness and overall regime that you follow, that is going to be very crucial for you in that perspective. Now Jupiter will become retrograded as well and should not have too many negative aspects, because you all know that I'm not a huge fan of luminaries or mostly planets coming into the 8th house, but Jupiter is the only exception that I take from that regard. Jupiter from here is giving an aspect to the sign of Scorpio in your 12th house, a debilitated aspect towards your second, and an aspect to the sign of Pisces where Saturn is also sitting. So he is going to sort of control things from an mental, emotional peace perspective, is going to elaborate your knowledge, your assets, your intellectual property, your movable, immovable assets as well are going to see some sort of a growth. So that's another positive sign coming into picture. We'll talk more about Scorpio because there's a lot of stuff that is happening in your 12th house, which becomes extremely crucial for you to navigate and understand. But before we go there, let's look into what is happening into the first half of the month, where at this beginning of the month itself you see the transit of Venus into your 11th house in its own sign. Now Venus happens to be the lord of your 6th house, and it is making a 6th movement away from itself into the 11th house. So that's a good yoga, that's a good proposition coming into picture, because you are going to find gains by overcoming the challenges which are going to be coming your way. So that's something that you must interpret carefully. It is also going to give you an opportunity for people who are looking out for work, who are appearing in some sort of competitive examinations, who are at job place but are looking for some promotion of sorts. You see a good possibility of all of it coming into picture. In fact, you taking due care of your health or overcoming any health challenges. Actually, health challenges are a very significant probability for you, Sagittarius. Lagna Lord is in 8th, as well as the 6th Lord is moving 6 places away. So there is going to be a possibility that you might attract difficult situations your way, but at the same time you will have the ability to overcome all of those problems as well. Good Shatruvanta Yoga is forming because multiple planets will be looking into your 6th house, so I'm not too worried. Now Venus is sitting in conjunction with Sun out there, who's your 9th lord. So your lord of destiny, fortune, superiors, bosses, mentors, guides, gurus, their advice could bring in positive benediction in your life, positive gains in your life. Albeit this Sun's looks debilitated, but the good part is that the debilitation is coming to an end thanks to the Neech Rajbhang Yoga, which is earlier it was getting formed with the presence of Mars in conjunction with Sun in Libra. And since Mars transited into the sign of Scorpio from 27th of October onwards, from 2nd of November, there's just a gap of a week, but from 2nd of November onwards, again, Venus is placed in that sign and he is bringing that Neech Bhang Yoga. So your gains could be superlative. You might be able to achieve your goals and objectives that you've been chasing all this while, and it will materialize for you in a positive sphere of things. Both of these planets sitting in the 11th house. See, I've done a very detailed video some time back where I've talked about how fame can come into a person's life, how can you gain social respect, and because 11th house is second to the 10th, Sun's presence here definitely indicates on some sort of positive gains for Sagittarius sign on that front too. So all in all, it is positive from an 11th house perspective, but at the same time, both of these planets are giving an aspect towards your 5th house, whereas Sun is giving an exalted aspect towards your 5th house, which means that this is also going to be a duration where you are going to bring tremendous amount of creativity, thought process, new insights, starting something new, startup of your own is going to materialize well. People who are looking forward to enhance student audience watching this video in terms of their initiatives, college admissions in faraway places, especially in foreign locations, because Mars is also placed in its own sign in the 12th house, you will see positive materialization there as well. There could be long distance travel that you could be making for romantic pursuits in your life, if you are looking for any kind of connections coming into place for you. So another positive bit from that perspective too. Now 5th house also denotes your investments, your stock market strategies, your speculative activities. And somewhere Sagittarius, with your Lagna Lord, your Rashi Lord being placed in the 8th house in exaltation, is indicating that there could be interest from your side to enhance or take big bets on those speculative activities. Now, just from transit perspective, I don't want you to be taking a bet, but the transit itself is indicating a positive spin of things on that front. And why am I saying that? Because you have to still take into account your natal dasha antardasha to see how things are materializing for you. However, sun's exalted aspect and then the fifth lord 8 places away from itself in its own sign in the 12th house of expense is further indicating that your investments could come into picture in terms of speculative gains or you chasing speculative gains. Remember, from 11th, Jupiter will become retrograded. So the impact of that can swing based on the dashantar dasha that you are going through in your natal chart, as well as the dignity, the Ashtavarga skora of Jupiter or even Mars is what you will have to consider to get at a firm understanding as to how things are going to pan out. But your interest could be heightened in that space. Now, whether or not it will result into a profit or a loss is something that needs to be deeply understood and examined. Now, whilst we are discussing in this first half of the month itself, we need to look as to what is happening into the sign of Scorpio. When Sun and Venus are placed in your 11th house, Mars and Mercury are stationed from day one into the sign of Scorpio itself. And this is where a very interesting combination is coming into picture, because your 10th lord and your 7th lord, which is the lord of your relationships, business partnerships, and your karma, is placed in the 12th. It is going to bring some bit of challenging situations from those areas. People who are self-employed, who are running their own businesses, who are engaged in kind of business partnership activities, you will face some bit of obstacles, challenges coming in your life. There could be some sort of a competition in your business sphere as well, and you will have to navigate very carefully, because Mercury will become retrograded as well. And see, Mercury in the 12th house already shows signs of debilitation, because it is the natural 12th lordship of Kal Purush chart. So that is not one of the best positions of Mercury to be in. Further, you will have to figure out that there could be some short distance travels that you will have to make, and they may or may not turn out effective for you. Again, you will have to think that if that is happening in the first third of the half of the month, because post that Mercury will be in retrograde motion, so you'll have to plan some of that bit also cleverly. Now, the interesting part is that the combination of your fifth lord with your seventh lord is happening in the 12th. So from business perspective, from romance and relationship standpoint as well, there could be some bit of an expense. You might have to treat your partner, your spouse, your romantic counterpart, do some expenses for them. There could be some medical emergency also that could come into picture, because remember, the seventh lord is making a sixth movement out there. At the same time, this will generate possibilities for your spouse or better half to crack open some sort of a job opportunity if they are looking for anything of that sort. Sudden connections, changes, plans of travel along with your partner, a romantic partner, could also come into picture. Mars is your 12th lord, so he is going to give you an indication that whatever spending, investment, planning that you are doing is happening in the right direction. You will have to bring a spiritual undertone, a mindset of giving as well, charitable mindset, donation mindset should be accomplished apart from your investment strategies, and that is where you will see a lot of favor coming in from this Mars. Now, when you look into the second half of this month, you will realize that around 16th of November onwards, Sun will be coming into your 12th house, and later on around 26th, Venus will also be transiting into the same, whilst Mercury in its retrograde position will slip back into the sign of Libra. So this is going to be interesting, because for the first part of the month you have two planets sitting in the 12th, then for a week about three planets, and in fact later on as well, Venus and Mercury swap places, and there will be three planetary conjunction which is going to be coming into picture in your 12th house. And what this showcases is that you are going to witness some degree of heightened expenses. Now, it is up to you how you can translate that into investment or charitable activities. Specifically for you, Sagittarius, it may not be a bad idea to make donation in the form of blood, red colored fruits, any kind of red colored clothes as well during this period. Combination of Mars and Venus is not a bad thing to happen, and Sun's presence in the Scorpio is also going to bring stronger capabilities. Like there is going to be some degree of mental emotional peace naturally sinking into you thanks to your spiritual initiatives. Remember, I said Jupiter is sitting in your eighth house in the sign of Cancer, and he is now giving an aspect onto the sign of Scorpio as well. So he is giving an aspect towards the Scorpio sign, and it will trickle towards Libra as well as it moves into the sign of into a mode of retrogression. So your expenses are definitely gonna balloon. Your spiritual quotient is also going to balloon. There is going to be an increase in your thought process as to how you can do more from all those regards. Whilst these multi-planetary placements are there in your 12th, all of them are giving a very strong aspect towards your 6th house. Venus himself would be staring back at its own house, and this is where I think, whilst those challenges are coming in terms of your energy being exhausted, what you will realize is that people who are looking for new job opportunities, people who are looking forward to fight over any kind of disease, health situations, people who are facing loans, litigations, good Shatru Hanta yoga is coming into picture. People who've been struggling with respect to their relationship with bosses. Well, things can continue to remain turbulent in the second half of that front, but the indication is that you will also have the ability to overcome that. At the end of the day, Sun is not going to be a malefic for you in this case because he's your ninth lord. So he is going to bring in, and he is in conjunction with the fifth lord as well in the 12th house. So there is a degree of positivity as well, which comes into picture for you folks, because your expenses will be directed towards necessities. You will not be spending lavishly on or crazily on areas just to satisfy, you know, your desires for that matter. Sleep could be disturbed for Sagittarius during the course of this month, so take proper care of yourself. Now, important part for you to note is with Saturn and Jupiter, Mars also has three crucial aspects. So with this fourth aspect, he's staring at your third house, which means that there is going to be a magnification of the efforts that is going to come into picture. Rahu is already there in your third house. So Sagittarius, since this transit has come into picture and Rahu is now getting stable in its own sign, pretty comfortable there has been no dearth in terms of the push, the courage, the fierceness that you bring to the table. There could be, however, situations where you get into argumentative scenarios with your siblings, with your neighbors. I would want you to also practice some degree of caution when you are playing any kind of sports, practicing any kind of hobbies where you could, open yourself, expose yourself to some kind of an injury. But yes, your interest towards doing more, playing more is definitely going to be on the rise. Now, Mars, along with everybody else, is giving an aspect towards your sixth house, which we discussed, but is also aspecting your seventh with its eighth aspect. And this is where I would want to give that word of caution. See, we discussed about communication gaps coming into picture, Mercury getting into retrograde position. So decision making, thought process, thinking getting impacted from all those areas. And Mercury is a Badhaka as well for you. So his retrogression will have a definitive impact in your thinking, in your thought process. But since Mars is giving that aspect towards your seventh house as well, you have to practice caution. Aggression should be muted when dealing with your spouse, with your business partners, with your partners in general, in the people that you collaborate with in life. You have to be careful on all those areas. The other bit for you to note is that Mars with its 12th house placement also brings in Mangal dosha. So this is not one of the most optimum periods. In fact, once Jupiter also gets retrograded, it's not the most auspicious period to plan for getting married. However, the right dates and things can be figured out based on your natal chart, dasha antardasha, to get a more comprehensive analysis if any of you are moving in that direction. Many of you would want to materialize your relationships into a formal association, into a formal formal commitment sort of a situation during the course of this month. Please anticipate the right dates or the right period for you depending on your natal chart. Now, as you move further, Rahu, as I already said, is placed in your third house. It brings an expansion of your thought process, courage, emotions, communication skills. Tone down on the aggression that can build upon your mind during the course of this period. Rahu from here is also giving an aspect towards your seventh house, ninth house, and 11th house, and thereby you'll have to be cognizant of the fact that whilst there is all these challenges, turbulences coming in your life, Rahu is still giving you that courage without fear to achieve your business goals, to achieve your gains. Just be careful that you do not become too selfish in terms of chasing your goals because of its aspect on that sun as well, who will be placed in the 11th house itself. Saturn, he's the lord of your second and the third house. He's sitting retrograded in the third. It has not been one of the best periods with respect to Saturn's transit towards the fourth house, but what you will notice that his presence in this motion has been impacting things at your workplace as well, from a career job perspective too, and especially as you inch towards the second half, the deep impact of that retrogression of Saturn will now start to diminish. You will see yourself coming in a much better situation, especially because throughout the course of the month, Jupiter is also continuously giving an aspect, and at the fag end of things, by November 27th, he will become direct, giving a direct aspect towards your sixth house, Lagna, your first house, as well as your 10th. So, workplace, career, your profession which has been seeing some sort of detrimental effects, your health that has been seeing some detrimental impact, will see some positive regeneration also coming into picture. Last but not the least, guys, Ketu is placed in your ninth house. Not a bad position for Ketu to be in, but now the dispositor of Ketu, which is Sun, is in a decent position than it was in the last couple of months. It is in the 11th house, getting Nij Bhanga, and thereby the impact of Ketu will also be translating in terms of giving you the right support. You will be inclined towards spirituality. I cannot emphasize enough, and it will be positive for you if you continue to do that. Ketu is also into the nakshatra of Venus, and thereby his presence with Venus also getting into good dignity. Ketu's impact now will be much more positive. Will that help you in terms of shaping your relationships, especially your romantic relationships, better? Well, not exactly, but your thought process will see a tremendous shift. He's giving an aspect towards the Lagna. So you are going to have some transformative thought process shift in your mind, and you are going to focus more on what needs to be put with respect to the efforts versus the outcome that you would chase. And that is the right approach to take with Ketu's position. All in all, I think this is going to be a mixed month. There are going to be several opportunities with respect to health, job, career, partnership, finances coming into picture. You have to make sure that you continue to utilize what the transits are conspiring for you and make full use of it. If you appreciate the effort and the insights that I've shared with you here, I would request you to please smash on that like button, subscribe to Vedic Astrology, and keep watching.